Another week, another Percy Jackson episode. Just as I've been doing for the last month plus, I'm going to go through season 2 episode 6, break it down, point out hidden details, go over how the episode compares to the book, and just give my thoughts as we go. I'm off screen for this video because I came down with the flu this week, so we're just going to do a voiceover for this one. Unfortunately, you can probably tell I'm sick from my voice too, but bear with me. So without further ado, let's get into it. This episode is called Nobody Gets the Fleece, which is a title taken straight from chapter 15 in the Sea of Monsters book. However, this episode also combines chapter 14, which is called We Meet the Sheep of Doom. Based on the title of that chapter, I was kind of disappointed we didn't see any of the flesh-eating sheep that were part of Polyphemus's herd. Annabeth and Percy watched them devour a deer to just their bones, which would have been a cool moment to witness in live action, but it might have been too PG-13 for this show, I don't know. But anyway, the episode starts with Tyson waking up and actually breathing underwater. This is noteworthy because this was a power that we didn't actually see until the final book in the series, The Last Olympian. The Sea of Monsters book made it seem as though Rainbow the hippocampus pulled him out before he drowned. Reading apart from the actual book, Rainbow the hippocampus, who had apparently been following us ever since the Long Island Sound waiting for Tyson to play with him, had found Tyson sinking beneath the wreckage of the CSS Birmingham and pulled him to safety. So seeing this Tyson power so early was pretty cool and a great way to start the episode. This scene also features Annabeth's bracelet that she threw in the ocean while in the CSS Birmingham, which we saw Rainbow the hippocampus grab 2 episodes ago. And Rainbow and his friends of course show up at the end of the episode, where we get our first good look of the hippocampi. In the book though, Rainbow had actually been introduced long before this, as he and a few others took them to the Princess Andromeda when they left camp. However, in the show, they took a boat. Although I will point out that the boat was the color of the rainbow. One detail I really liked was how Tyson's face had the reflection of all the colors from the hippocampus. That was a nice detail. After that, the episode cuts to a dream that Percy's having, and this dream is insane. He sees loads of dead campers on the floor of the big house, and Kronos then shows up and blasts him with lightning. Now this was a power that Kronos did have in the books, but he only did it from the sky. In the Titan's Curse, which is the book that season 3 will cover, he shot lightning at Annabeth's father's car when they were on their way to Mount Othbris. But this dream gets even crazier, because later, after Percy wakes up, we see that the person behind the hood was actually Thalia. And then that makes you wonder, is the lightning from Kronos, or is it from Thalia herself, who was the daughter of Zeus? And Zeus is of course known for his lightning. Thalia has lightning powers, and we actually saw this a few episodes ago in the flashback, as she was able to send lightning through her spear, which is a detail that was in the book. Thalia has been a big part of Luke and Annabeth's relationship this season. The book did touch on the fact that Luke thinks Thalia would join him, but it's brought up way more in the show, especially when you add the flashbacks we got 2 episodes ago, where Thalia heavily backs Luke and actually talks down about her father.
And I don't want anything to do with my father's world.
And then we had the little back and forth the episode before that, where Luke told Annabeth that she didn't really know Thalia.
You didn't know her!
Thalia and I were on the run together for 2 years. You were with us for 2 months. Thalia hated Zeus.
At the end of that episode, this made Annabeth question everything until this episode, where she actually admits that Luke was right about all this. She admitted that Thalia really did hate her father Zeus. However, she says that she still firmly believes that Thalia would never join Kronos.
But you were wrong to think that she would ever stand with Kronos.
She would have wanted change.
Not through war.
It's a really interesting dynamic that the two have, which has been building up for pretty much the whole season. The conversation in which they discuss this is something I have to highlight as well. During the Iris message, you can tell that they both still care for each other, especially when Annabeth mentions how much Kronos has changed Luke, which she said he himself couldn't even see.
Luke, Kronos has already changed you. You can't even see how much of yourself you've lost.
Then the way the call ends is another noteworthy detail, as both Percy and Allison question Annabeth and Luke about the call, and Percy doesn't trust Luke, while Allison doesn't trust Annabeth. Luke's response to Allison saying it was just recon
I decide what's important, and that wasn't about her. That was recon.
would almost be believable until you see how much he cares at the end of the episode, which we'll talk about later in the video. Also, one thing I didn't expect was the fact that Allison might be getting jealous of Annabeth, meaning she might have feelings for Luke. It doesn't really surprise me given how much he's willing to do for him, as we've seen throughout the season, like going after Grover and even falling off a freaking cruise ship. But that's something to watch out for as the show progresses. Also, I will add that Allison was not a character in the books. She was made just for the show, so any plotline with her is entirely conceived by the showrunners. Another dynamic I enjoyed early in this episode, which I think embodies both characters from the books, was Percy being impatient and just wanting to storm in to save Grover and get the fleece. That is so book Percy. Meanwhile, Annabeth is so book Annabeth, as she is strategic and uses her knowledge, forming a plan and saying that they have to follow it. And what makes this even more accurate to the book is that Annabeth reels Percy in, and Percy ends up listening to her. This series has made Polyphemus far more threatening, and much smarter than he was in the book. We got the bomb drop in the last episode that he was playing Grover the whole time, knew that he was a satyr, and strategically waited, which brings us to this episode where he says the only reason he kept them alive was to use them as bait. And he brilliantly creates a fake fleece, which the Polyphemus from the book would never think to do. And one of the most interesting parts about his monologue is that he actually admits that he really is scared of demigods.
I think he's worried, scared, that our reinforcements are coming for him.
True. Demigods are dangerous.
Which you rarely see a villain do. I think this added even more depth to his arc and honestly made me respect him as a villain. Also, the part with him saying he just wants to be alone, which were accompanied by these beautiful long distance shots, it kinda gave me Thanos vibes in Endgame after the snap. And if your villain is being compared to Thanos, you're doing something right. Then, when he pulled out each satyr's skull and mimicked their voice, it was truly chilling and just straight up evil to do in front of Grover.
From Truff.
I learned of things like classic rock and anime.
From Meritus.
I learned of ships that travel beneath the waves and others that sail the stars.
I'll say it again, they really made this Polyphemus a menace. The focus on Pan in this episode was small but also intriguing. Both in the show as well as in the book, we're told that satyrs are led to this island because the fleece gives off the same scent as Pan, the god of the wild that all satyrs go looking for when they get their searcher's license. But we get yet another bomb drop as Polyphemus tells Grover that Pan himself was the one who gave him the fleece, knowing that it would give Polyphemus loads of satyrs to eat.
How'd you know it would give off the same scent as Pan?
Who do you think brought the mighty artifact in the first place?
Pan was here? Why? Why would he do that?
I obviously think he's lying, especially based on evidence later in the series, but it's still a fascinating plot point that really messes with Grover's head, and honestly, I'm eager to see how this plays out and how it affects Grover's character moving forward. But Grover also used the scent of the fleece to his advantage later on, as he let the smell of what he earlier thought was Pan lead him right to the fleece. Also, it was crazy that Polyphemus was so far away, but somehow still heard or sensed that Grover was taking it. Percy and Annabeth going under the sheep fur was comical, especially when Annabeth started making sheep noises.
Be a sheep.
In the book though, they hung on to the actual sheep from below. We again see Clarice impress us, far more than she ever did in the book in my opinion, as she picks Grover up, breaks the mirror, and uses the broken glass to cut the ropes. And another moment that I didn't expect was Clarice actually catching Percy when he falls. And I'm sure the fact that nobody caught her in the last episode, leading to her being knocked out, had something to do with this. Annabeth has some moments to shine as well, as she puts on her invisibility cap, which was given to her by her godly mother Athena by the way, and she leads Polyphemus away. I love the view and effect of seeing Annabeth underneath the hat with the distorted and colorful background. That was a nice detail. And this scene was extra enjoyable as Annabeth references the Odyssey and mentions how Odysseus fooled Polyphemus into thinking his name was Nobody. This was something she brought up in the book too, but it has more of an effect here in my opinion because of how they changed the Cyclops for the show. When Annabeth says how embarrassing that is, I'm sure it took a huge hit on Polyphemus's ego considering how smart he was. Luke arrives on the island having him show up alone by using his sword Backbiter, which they made be able to open portals. We saw him do this in the season 1 finale when he escaped camp after his fight with Percy. One thing weird about this though is when Luke mentions that he can only do this once, and that's why he can't get the others outside of the cave.
Open another one inside the cave and let us out so we can bring Annabeth the fleece.
I can't. Only one person can go through, and I already used it.
Which seems odd to me, but I guess it was convenient for the plot and plugged up a plot hole that fans would undoubtedly point out. So good on the writers for getting ahead of that, I guess. We then see Tyson return, which was pretty epic. And seeing him speak ancient Greek to Polyphemus was a neat detail. And as was the line where Polyphemus called Tyson his brother, only for Tyson to say no, Percy was his brother. That kinda gave me goosebumps. Then we got an awesome Cyclops on Cyclops fight, and as soon as Tyson said, "I don't want to hurt you,"
I don't want to hurt you.
You hurt me.
I knew that it was about to go down, and it sure did, as Tyson just slammed him to the ground. I would have liked to see Percy have a swing at Polyphemus in this episode, because he was actually part of the fight where Tyson took him down. In fact, he was the one that started the fight, and Tyson finished it, and I know it probably wasn't possible for this specific fight, but it would have been cool if they had at least added something earlier in the episode, but we didn't get that unfortunately. Just like in the novel, Annabeth is put in critical condition when she's hit by the Cyclops, but this is handled so much differently in the show. They basically come up with a whole new plot line, which Luke is actually involved in. In the book, they had the rock guarding the cave be fully moved, allowing all of them to escape. But obviously that was not the case in the show, as Grover, Percy, and Clarice were still stuck in the cave. And that was the key to setting up the showrunner's new storyline for this. Annabeth is dying, and the only way to save her is to give Luke the fleece. Clarice refuses though, saying that the quest was more important, and adds that Annabeth would feel the same way.
I'm not sacrificing the quest. Annabeth would understand. She would know that this is bigger than any of us.
And honestly, I have to agree with her. I think Annabeth would take saving the camp over her own life. But taking us back to the discussion that Percy and Annabeth had in the last episode.
So if I choose between saving you or saving Olympus, Annabeth, I burn it all down.
Percy does exactly what he feared he would do, which was fall under his fatal flaw, which was loyalty. In this episode, he picked his friend over the world. This season introduced us to the prophecy, which states that a child of the big three would make a decision that would either save or destroy Olympus. Obviously, this couldn't be that choice because the prophecy also says that the child has to be 16 years old, which Percy is not at this point. But the fact that he so easily chose his friend over the world doesn't bode well, and I'm sure that the gods are going to keep an eye on that. Afterward, when Percy has his head bowed as low as it can go and Clarice is just chewing him out.
You killed Camp. You probably killed Annabeth too. Great job, hero.
That was a good moment to be honest, because Percy did need to hear that. Honestly, Clarice's reaction to all of this was spot on and perfect, both for her character and also everything that I was thinking myself. Also, just a little detail. When Luke takes Annabeth, he also takes her knife. This is noteworthy because he actually gave her that knife when he and Thalia first found her as a little girl. The show cut this out unfortunately, and instead had him give her the bracelet, which did play a role in this episode, but I would have liked to see the knife bit. I'm hoping that eventually it will be fleshed out. Also, for you book readers out there, take a look at this. We see Percy make a decision like this, and see Luke pick up Annabeth's knife. Well, doesn't that sound familiar? My god, that is an insane detail. That's all I'll say about it though, because I don't want to spoil anything for those who haven't read the source material. Percy picking up Annabeth's hat and giving that deadly stare, it was a good ending to the episode because he's pissed, and I can't wait to see how he responds next week. Also, it's interesting that they're probably going to recreate this shot and exact situation where Percy finds the hat and gives that stare in the next season, which will see Annabeth disappearing for quite some time. I've been rating every episode out of 10, so of course I'm gonna do it for this episode as well. I thought this was a very well written episode. It strays from the book a lot, which I enjoyed at times, but others I think it might have gone a little too far, and there are some things I'm questioning about how it's going to play out and how they're going to write that. The Luke and Annabeth arc was by far the best part of the episode for me, between the Iris message and of course the Golden Fleece scene. The dream sequence with Thalia was also something that shocked me and that I did not see coming, and was something that was not in the book, but honestly I did enjoy it. To be honest, looking at the episode as a whole, not much really happened until the end, so I would argue that this is one of the less exciting episodes we've seen so far. So I'm gonna give this episode an 8.5 out of 10, and here you can see how it compares to my ratings for all of the other episodes as well. If you haven't seen my other videos on the season or last season, the playlist is on the left right here, and then last week's episode breakdown is on the right. I apologize for my voice being shot. Hopefully it will be better for next week. That's all I have for you guys today though. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.